Hi everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Tax Tips channel. My name is Cherry Chen, a chartered professional accountant located in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. And I'm on a mission to become the Google map for hardworking Canadians seeking financial freedom. Today, I have a very special guest. We all heard about how difficult it is to be a landlord in Ontario and in multiple provinces in Canada, maybe except one province. According to one of my favorite author, Brian Holiday, obstacle is the way. So I find that today's guest is exactly doing that, choosing the path, obstacle is the way, and not just find a solution, actually build a solution to go against this particular problem. But before I introduce her, I just want to remind everybody to give us a thumbs up if you find our video useful, or hit the subscribe button so then you can stay on top of the latest news and our latest expert interview as well. Now, with that, I want to welcome today's guest, waiting.
Thank you very
Yes.
much, Cherry, for inviting me on the show. Glad to be here.
Yes, tell us a little bit about your obstacle. I gave it away a little bit because I told everybody that is obstacle is the way.
Yes. Well, 4 years ago, I wanted to move back into my own rental property. I had just
Mm,
one rental property. And at the time, I wanted to grow my family. So I had issued the N12 personal use notice in Ontario. I had asked my
mhm.
tenants, given them way advance notice, plus double the time to
Mhm.
vacate, and gave compensation. Because as you know, in Ontario, when you want it for personal use, you have to give compensation. So I had
Yeah,
done
yeah.
all of that compliantly. And then I had asked my tenants. And then in response, they said, no, I'm not moving out. And I'm also not going to pay rent anymore. And Cherry, at the
What?
time, I was dumbfounded. I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know much about the LTB, the Landlord Tenant Board. And so then what ended up supposed to be a very nice procedure, it dragged out at the LTB for about 2 years. And then with
Wow.
$35,000 of unpaid rent afterwards, five LTB orders, that's when I was like, you know what? This is public information, like the documents that you get from it. Right. And I was
Mhm,
like, why
mhm,
is this not public information more accessible to the general public? Because it's
mhm.
supposed to be. And that's when I turned to my husband, my partner, who's also my co founder at OpenRoom, and we said,
Mhm.
we build software for a living. Why don't we go do something about it? And that was the start of Open Room. So, at a basic
Oh,
fundamental
wow.
level, yeah, we collect these court orders or tribunal decisions, and then we make it searchable by the public to hold people accountable for their actions.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So the tenants owe you $35,000 of rent, but you eventually kick them out,
Yes,
hopefully.
yes, on March 7th, 2022, I remember that day so vividly when the sheriff came for eviction. I was very, very pregnant at the time. I was
Of
about 30 weeks
course.
pregnant. And the sheriff came in, and at the end, he gave me vacant possession and said to me, Waiting, you're very lucky. The house is actually in pretty good condition because my tenants had moved
Mm.
out the weekend prior to the Monday of that eviction, and they
Uh,
didn't have time to ruin the property. At least, like for the most part, there were some wear and tear and some dog feces, but at the end of it, it was still fine in comparison to the many other damages that I have seen housing providers go through.
oh, wow. Oh my God. That is a painful story to hear. So then you started Open Room, I guess, a couple years ago now. How old is Open Room?
Open Room started as a side project while my co-founder and I were on parental leave. So it was first baby.
Mm,
We wanted to grow a family. We were on parental leave, and then we were just like so upset about the whole situation. And then it
mhm.
was now September 2022 was when we first launched the first version of Open Room, which was literally just one page with a green button at the top that says "Share your orders." Right.
Yeah.
And then now, when you come onto Open Room now, it has multiple pages, help center, dispute
Awesome.
center, and everything. Yeah. But at that beginning, it was that very first single page that we had went out with my orders. Yeah.
Wow. So like you would, but is it a peer-to-peer type of network, or is it connected somewhere in a database that people can search any court order based on the tenant's name?
Good question. So when I say my orders, it was me contributing my first original 5 court orders or tribunal decisions into OpenRoom. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was thousands of other individuals, whether it be landlords, the tenant, the paralegals, the property managers, and even people who just listened to the hearing at the LTB contributing
Mm. Oh,
into
wow.
the OpenRoom database. And so now we've got over 42,000 records, but they are
Wow.
factual and objective and they're public records. So we are not a review site of any sort. It is very, very factual.
Mm-hmm. So how does it help landlords? How do landlords leverage open room to help themselves?
Oh, such a good question. It's a free search. So that is why we recommend all housing providers to do this first step when you're trying to vet a tenant. You just come onto openroom.ca, exactly as it
Mm,
sounds, openroom.ca, and then you do a name search, a past address search. Some people even start searching the guarantors, the
mm.
references, the
Wow.
employers, past landlords, just to see if there's any anomalies. Because as you know, Jerry, many of the documents coming into the tenant screening is now fraudulent docs. So you want to triple check everything.
Mm.
But once you search inside the system, you'll get these records that you can browse through. And then if you click on one that there's a match, you can then read the court order information, what happened in
Wow.
the dispute, who the judge was, the adjudicator, the legal rep, and all the details behind it so that you can make a more informed decision.
That's amazing. So this has must have helped a lot of landlords out there then, small and big.
Yes, yes, we see the big ones, big landlords also using OpenRoom to conduct their searches, and definitely small landlords because small housing providers were the reason why OpenRoom had really blown up over the last couple of years in the rental ecosystem. It's that word
Mhm.
of mouth. Once you know about OpenRoom, you're like, I definitely need to share
Yeah.
it because I want to help my friend, right? So the word of mouth,
Yeah.
and then the majority of our orders are actually contributed by the small housing provider community. Yeah.
Mm.
But then the other side that I want to mention is that actually tenants or renters use OpenRoom as well from a search
Oh.
perspective. Yeah, yeah. In the sense that they would search for their future landlord or future property manager and see if anything shows up for bad faith evictions or maintenance issues that they never take care of. So it's also
Oh.
helping the other side to make more informed decisions.
So it's actually a very just like the name imply open and why open, not just for landlord, is helping landlord to hold the tenants accountable and also helping tenants to hold the landlord accountable.
Yes, yes, because we believe that it's not just about tenants with unpaid rent or evictions or damages that they do to property, but it's also there are definitely slumlords out there that we know of, right?
Mhm.
Who don't care about maintenance, don't care about how they treat tenants, and that is not okay. So how we look at it at Open Room is the bad players on both sides need to be
Yep.
weeded out of the entire ecosystem so then everybody else can thrive. Like it's hurting the good renters and it's making a bad reputation for the good landlords, housing providers out there.
So as of right now, Open Room is free to
It,
use.
yeah, if you want to do searches, it is free to use. And then there are additional services that cost if you want to go beyond. But as a landlord or renter, you just want to do a search. Yes, that is free.
Okay, so what else can Open Room do for us then, beyond what you just mentioned, just doing the search?
So something that we have been working on, Jerry, what is all about holding people accountable. So how do we hold people accountable?
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
when you have a court order or a tribunal decision, so it doesn't have to be just from the LTB. If there's
mhm.
rental debt on it, so it can be rent arrears, rental
Yep,
monthly income, or it could
yep.
be the utilities,
Utilities. Yeah.
damages. If you've got that in the order, you can share it inside Open Room, and then we will hit the credit history or credit report from an
Oh,
Equifax perspective and then
oh
land on the
wow.
collections record of the credit history. So then it negatively impacts the credit score.
So so if that's the case, like and you record it, you register with Open Room and there is a damage and it goes onto their record. It does it automatically go to on their credit report when we leverage that service, or do I still have to take a step to go to small claims court?
Oh, okay. So there are two steps, which is sharing your court order with OpenRoom, just as a
Mm,
share it broadly with the community.
yeah,
That is also
yes.
free to do. You don't
Mhm,
have to then take the additional step, which is to share that court order with us and then submit it into Equifax, because that comes at
mhm,
a little bit of a cost, right? A one-time
mhm.
cost. And then if you do that, it's separate from small claims court, because when you go to small claims court, you're trying to garnish or enforce, but reporting
Mhm.
into the credit bureau on the collections line item is not an enforcement. It is just declaring that
Oh,
there's rent debt owed to you by a debtor. And that's what we're able to help with.
oh.
But we don't take any of that additional money if they end up doing any payments back. So that is like discussions that you and the debtor will have, like creditor and debtor. But we don't
Uh-huh.
manage the facilitation, or we don't touch the money.
But you are taking one step further to actually have the tenant being accountable for what they owe, which is also like very important because I'm sure you've already got some experience from your clients, but I know I've heard a lot about like once the debt hit their credit history, the moment it hits it, then they would just pay you miraculously.
Yes, we have seen that happen. But the thing is, we also have to look at, is it appropriate for someone to go through the route of reporting into the credit
Mm,
bureau with rental
mhm.
debt, right? So with
Yeah.
this reporting, you don't need consent because there's already a court order. We look at it very factually. You don't even get to type in how much they owe because we calculate it from the court order itself
Oh,
at OpenRoom.
wow.
And we calculate the interest, and then we rack it up every month if they don't
Oh,
pay, and then send that
wow.
additional like final balance into Equifax every month. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. That's
So
really cool.
yeah, because if you look at small landlords, Cherry, it's like they don't always know what number is owed to them, right? From an accounting
Yes.
perspective, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
So it seems very easy, but it's not. And especially interpreting the orders from the landlord tenant board and all these courts, it's so complicated. So what we do
Mhm.
is our system will automatically calculate, and then if there's any wrong amounts, then you can dispute it, and we'll look at it. But otherwise, we handle all of that for you.
Wow, that's amazing. We are like Erwin and I are looking at this vacant property that we own. It's just a tenant recently decided to move out, and we can increase the rent by $1,000.
Hmm.
That's what the market is justifying because the previous tenant, had been with us for 7 years.
Okay.
So in the boom of the rental market, we never got to raise rent. So it's a $700 difference. It's a substantial amount for someone who's renting it for 30 to $3,300, and now a new tenant is coming in at $4,000. But our discussion isn't whether we are how much we are going to rent it out for. Our discussion is, okay, is it too much risk to continue to rent it out in today's marketplace? Because I can also choose to sell it, right?
Yes.
The market isn't as favorable in terms of selling, but it is still an option. And then I don't have to worry about not having tenants to pay for our property. And so this would be helpful, very helpful for a lot of landlords too.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the risk of renting, that's why so many small scale housing providers are so scared to put their rental properties on the market, such as yourself. It's like
Mm,
several years ago, that wouldn't even be a question. I was like, why would you ever question it? But now,
mm.
what we're looking at in terms of all of the orders inside Open Room in Ontario alone in the last 5 years, we're looking at about $293 million as of today, Cherry. Today is
Wow.
Tuesday, May 20th of
Wow.
2025. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Just year to date.
293 million. No, in the last 5 years. But that's only
That's
based
fine.
on orders that Open Room has. So we don't have all of the court orders from the landlord tenant
Mm,
board. We only have about like less than 10%, right? So if we look at
wow.
that, then we look at, wow, then how much money is actually owed in rental arrears overall? We're definitely crossing a couple $1 billion. And think about the taxes that the government could be collecting on people, housing providers, if that rent was paid, right? So all of that is going unpaid, lost in the ecosystem right now. And for the majority of it, people don't even know about it because only those who choose to report it into the credit bureau,
Mhm.
those are known, but otherwise it's not known.
Oh my God, just looking at like hearing the $290 million make my heart wrench a little bit. No, I
Yeah,
just felt like maybe I just wouldn't want to be an Ontario landlord again. I'm not sure. We still have properties in Ontario. It's just that it just makes me think twice about renting out the current property. As much as I love that house, because that was the house that I purchased even before I met Erwin. So yeah, I wanted to keep it, but then there's the other side of me that decided like had like this discussion in Brussels because of what you just said. It's
yeah.
crazy.
But then all that aside, the bad stuff, we still have to remember that the majority of tenants and renters are
Mhm.
fantastic, right? It's
Yeah.
the bad apples that ruin it for everybody. But if we stay positive and then we say, how do we then reward the good renters with
Hmm.
rewards? And that's what we were thinking about at Open Room for a very long time. It's yes, we're holding the bad people accountable, but now the majority are great. So what do we do with the rest of the community? And so
Hmm.
then we looked into something called the rent rewards program that we just came out with.
Oh,
Yeah. And
oh,
thousands of
exciting.
housing providers are now testing with us, and their residents are now testing with us on this new piece that we've got.
What is it about? Tell
Okay.
tell 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 our audience a little bit about it.
Yes. So whether you're a small landlord or a larger landlord, what we do is we make it super simple to report into the credit bureau to help you reduce the risk of delinquency. So
Mm,
earlier we were talking about after the court order, you're already in court and then you report into collections line item. But now it's how do we help you and your tenants build their credit? So we
mhm.
give in the rent rewards program two benefits. One is rent reporting, helping the
Yep.
tenants build credit. And then number
Mhm.
two, tenants also get access to hundreds of perks with retailers that we work with. So together,
Oh.
yeah. So that additional piece is super awesome because it's like, yes, there's credit building, but credit building is still in its infancy, I would say.
Mm,
But it's like, really,
mhm,
how do you then keep retaining and rewarding the good tenants, right? So we have
mhm.
discussions with hundreds of these retailers who would love to offer discounts and perks to the
Oh,
demographic.
that's exciting. That's
Yeah.
really exciting.
That's what we're
Wow.
embarking on right now.
Wow. Wow. So, as an entrepreneur, I can't help but think, like, how do you fund this whole thing? Because it doesn't sound like you're doing something super easy, and it sounds like it's super time consuming.
Yes. Yeah, originally we started as a side hustle, right? Just like this is fun side project we want to do because we're so passionate about it. And then it was only last year, so a year ago, that we
Mm,
Vishal and I, co-founder Vishal and I decided to work on this full time. And then how we fund it is like how do we make money at Open Room, right? One is that we
mm,
self-funded Open Room.
mm,
So we're not at the stage of taking funding. We don't need additional funding from outside investors, completely self-funded, bootstrapped. And then we look at customer revenue. How do we then earn from the services that we provide? So yes, there's the
mhm,
free search, but there's also automated search for tenant
mm,
screening companies that use
yeah.
OpenRoom. They do thousands of
Oh.
searches. So they will buy OpenRoom API automated search
Mm.
functionalities. And
Oh,
then
awesome.
yeah, and then there's also like reporting into Equifax, the rental debt piece, like all of that has additional fees to it if someone wants to do it, but not everybody needs to do it. Mhm.
Mhm. That's really awesome. I'm glad that you find the source of funding and is able to support your entire family on it.
Yes, and we were able to hire an engineer over the earlier this year, so that was pretty awesome to see us growing and to be able to continue on this mission. Cherry, there's a part of me that's like, would it be extra awesome to work back in corporate?
Mm,
100%. Like that was
yes,
very cushy. You get a stable paycheck,
I know.
and being an entrepreneur, as you and Erwin know, it's just completely different ball game, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
yes, you have to look at payroll. Can you afford to pay everybody plus yourself and all the
yeah.
expenses? So yeah, it's definitely harder, and I don't recommend it for the faint of heart. Yeah,
Yeah,
got to be kind of
100%
crazy.
agree. Yes, you gotta be crazy or you just shut down half of your brain when you make the decision and then you'll do it. I agree.
But calculated decisions. It's like thousands of people are counting on Open Room to do this right. Because if you don't hit the credit history, with the right information, accurate information, or you post defamatory content about somebody that is not supposed to be public record, then it becomes an issue. So at
Mhm.
OpenRoom, we take very, very strong due diligence when we look at every single record that we put publicly out there and what we do to impact someone's financial, personal, identifying information. And that's why we're always trying to stay compliant as a consumer reporting agency.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I really admire you, your co-founder. Now, I just want to bring it down to the basic for our audience who may have this need or may not have this need and who are still landlords in Ontario. And I just wanted to ask this question. Number one is it still available, only strictly available in Ontario?
No, it is actually across Canada. So it's
Awesome.
not just Ontario. But the majority of our records is still in Ontario because that is where we started. But now court orders are coming in from Alberta, British Columbia, Nova Scotia. Like we have seen quite a few differences and we've really tried to understand what are the nuances in each of them. And now the services cover all across Canada.
Amazing. Now, my
Mhm.
second question is, let's boil it down to the rental process and at what point do we need to engage or use OpenRoom? So let's say I have this house that I wanted to rent it out now and I post it and then now I got a couple of offer to
Mhm.
lease. I'm using realtors to lease it out. Like there's no hit on Facebook at all. So for this particular price point, I don't think people are using like doing their own search. So I got a couple of offers, and what do I do now?
If you know the name of
Yes.
the individual that have applied and you
Mm-hmm.
know, or if you know their any additional information such as address or past landlord,
Mm,
then you can
yeah.
just do a search. But at the
Yeah.
very fundamental level, as soon as you know a name, try a search.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, search the name and see what records show up. And then you want to verify, is this the accurate name? Because when it comes to court orders, there might be duplicate names, right? Thousands of
Mm-hmm.
people have the same name. Then you want to deep dive into the address. Did they supply
Mm,
you an address that is the same address? Or when you pull a credit report that has addresses on it, like an Equifax report, does it
mm,
have an address that's a hit inside OpenRoom that's a match, right? So those are ways that you can double check. But at the very fundamental level, just check the name.
awesome. So if they pop up and there is no explanation and the address matches, then 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 this is not a good tenant, probably.
I'll let people make their own decisions on that, but it's like it
Mm,
depends on what the order is.
mm,
Like, say, for example, it's for unpaid rent. And it's like, why did they have unpaid rent, right? What was the situation?
mm,
Were there repeat offenders that are like multiple times unpaid rent? Or is it actually them going after the landlord for situations that the
mm.
landlord was at fault? That is a different story. And that
Ah,
I would say caution people to dive a little bit deeper and understand the reasoning behind that before you just deny someone a tenancy on that.
awesome, awesome. Yes, that totally makes sense now. So how much does it cost to use OpenRoom
If
other
you're
than just doing the search?
if you're not doing search, because that part is free, from a rental debt ledger perspective, you want to hit Equifax for rental arrears, that is an $88 one-time fee and we'll cover it for the
Wow,
next 6 years. Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. $88 for 6 years.
Yeah, yeah. We chose 88 because in Chinese or Mandarin, 88 is a good number. So we were like, okay, if someone pays the $88, then it's signifying good luck for their next rental. So that's how it, right? It's like hopefully you don't land in this and you don't have to use open room again for rental debt ledger is some of the joking comments that Vishal and I would would talk about.
That's
Yeah.
too funny. Everything is 88. We choose like the 88 number is always good. Um,
Yeah.
so for those landlords out there who are interested in getting to know more or submit their court order and all these information, do they just go to the website? What's the next step for them?
Yes, I would highly suggest visiting OpenRoom.ca. If you are uploading an order. In the top right-hand corner, you will see upload court order, and the instructions are very simple. You just share the order, and you don't even have to log in. Just share the order, and then every order
Mm.
goes through rigorous review before we even post it to the public. So that's why it takes us about 3 days to make it public. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, because we have right now, Cherry, about 1,000 to 2,000 orders coming in every single month. And these are the latest, freshest orders. Some of them as
Wow.
recent as yesterday. Like people will go to court yesterday or even today if they get the order today, and then they'll share it right away with us. Like some of them are really, really adamant on making sure this information gets accessible by the public.
Yeah, that's amazing. This is as good as a bad tenant registry, essentially, right?
I would say that it is not the same as a bad tenant registry. So, bad tenant registry, what people do in the past is they'll create a Facebook group or they'll have a big
Mm.
list that they'll share around, which I still see. Some people have sent it to me, but that, Cherry and audience, is illegal because you're just writing
Mm.
people's names. What we are doing is sharing court order records, and we're not the first ones to do this, right? Like, there are legal databases with people who have gone to court, and that is what we are doing, just very specific to tenancy. Yeah, hone it in.
But it's also bad landlord at the same time. So it's not just, it's both sides.
From
And it's in a
yes,
legal way.
there will be information about adjudicators, landlords, tenants, property managers, friends that are like unoccupied residents that are involved. Like, yes, everything related to tenancy records is what we specialize in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really appreciate this tool. Like I said, obstacle is a way, and you find a way to build a business around, and also a way to make enough money to support your whole family and hire a professional engineer. So good, really appreciate and admire what you're doing.
Thank you very much. And the last thing I want to say to the public is that education is key, right? When we are stuck in a position of the obstacle, as you were alluding to, it's important for us to go continue to learn. So a lot of what we
Mm.
do is similar to what you do is like you teach people about tax tips and rental
Mhm.
housing real estate market. It's like we are doing that as well as we learn more about being a credit reporting agency or consumer reporting agency, and then about the rental ecosystem, about being compliant and everything. We want to share it with everybody so that we can all learn and make more informed decisions.
Thank you so much, Weiting. This has been amazing. And I hope that more landlords are going to be able to use OpenRoom and leverage it. And I wish you continued success with building your business as well.
Thank you very much. It's because of the small businesses like us that need help from your side that helps us be more successful. So, really appreciate having us on. Thank you.
Thank you.